around him. And it's not that he was throwing fits and kicking over C-stands and, throwing boxes around or anything, but, they gave him space. He was the Duke.
Right. Ron Howard. For over 60 years, that name has been a hallmark of Hollywood decency. He's the guy you think of when you hear moral compass in an industry that can sometimes feel like it's lost its own. We first met him as the freckle-faced Ernest Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show, and we grew up alongside him as the all-American teen, Richie Cunningham, on Happy Days. For the last 4 decades, we've watched him become one of the most respected directors out there, giving us classics from Apollo 13 to the Oscar-winning masterpiece, A Beautiful Mind. Through it all, his reputation has stayed, almost unbelievably, spotless. By all accounts, he's Hollywood's nicest guy. A calm, collaborative leader who makes his sets feel like a family. He's the director actors love working with, the steady hand who guides even the biggest projects to success with a gentle touch. You see him in interviews, always smiling, always gracious. That wholesome image is so ingrained in our minds. It feels like a fundamental truth of Hollywood. But what happens when the nicest guy in Hollywood runs up against an immovable object? What happens when that legendary patience gets pushed to its absolute limit? Because let's be honest, everyone has a breaking point. And in the high-pressure world of filmmaking, egos clash, tempers flare, and even the calmest person can be tested. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on that perfect public image to uncover 5 professional relationships that challenged Ron Howard more than any others. These are the stories of backstage drama, clashing philosophies, and difficult personalities that put his sterling reputation to the ultimate test. These aren't just simple disagreements. They are instances of profound professional friction that reveal a side of Ron Howard you've never seen before. Get ready, because we're counting down the top 5 actors who reportedly gave Ron Howard his toughest times on set. Kicking off our list at number 5 is a name that's as famous for his explosive talent as he is for his notoriously intense personality. Russell Crowe. This is an actor who commands the screen like few others, whether he's the noble Maximus in Gladiator or the brilliant troubled John Nash in A Beautiful Mind, which was his first time teaming up with Ron Howard. Crowe's reputation for being difficult is legendary. Stories of his ferocious commitment, his arguments with directors, and his intimidating demeanor are all over Hollywood. He's an artist of pure, unfiltered passion, and sometimes that passion sparks conflict. So, when the famously intense Crowe joined forces with the famously calm Ron Howard for A Beautiful Mind, in 2001, everyone held their breath. It was a true pairing of opposites. Howard, who values a harmonious set, and Crowe, an actor who sometimes thrives on creative friction. Now, it's important to be clear, there has never been a public war of words between these two. In fact, they teamed up again for the fantastic movie Cinderella Man in 2005, which shows the professional respect they built. So why is he on this list? Because their dynamic represents one of the biggest challenges a director like Howard can face. Managing a genius who is also a powder keg. The tension wasn't about screaming matches. It was about the constant underlying pressure of navigating a personality that's the complete opposite of your own creative style. A Beautiful Mind was a huge undertaking, telling the story of a mathematician whose life is torn apart by schizophrenia. Crowe dove headfirst into that darkness, and Howard's job became twofold: give his star the space to explore that, but also prevent that darkness from poisoning the set for everyone else. Howard has spoken about a director's duty to navigate intense personalities to protect the cast and crew from a toxic environment. The challenge here wasn't personal animosity. It was a deep-seated aversion to any force that threatens the collaborative, safe space Howard believes is essential for creating great art. The fact that A Beautiful Mind won Howard the Oscar for Best Director is a testament not just to his filmmaking, but to his incredible skill in personality management. He successfully harnessed the hurricane that is Russell Crowe and channeled it into a breathtaking performance. Sometimes on-set tension isn't about one person. It's about an entire philosophy of acting that just doesn't mesh with your own. Coming in at number 4 isn't an individual, but a whole category of performers that Ron Howard has famously expressed reservations about. The method actors. For those who don't know, method acting is an immersive technique where actors try to live as their character on and off camera. It's given us some of the most powerful performances in history from legends like Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro, but it's also been linked to some pretty bizarre and disruptive on-set behavior. For a director like Ron Howard who believes filmmaking is a team sport, the method can be a real problem. Howard has made it clear he prefers a collaborative process, where every single person on set works together toward a common goal. In his view, a method actor who stays in character can't communicate effectively, creates an uncomfortable environment for their scene partners, and disrupts the whole rhythm of the production. This philosophical conflict reportedly surfaced on the set of his 1988 fantasy epic, Willow. The film's co-lead, playing the swordsman Mad Mardigan, was Val Kilmer. By the late 80s, Kilmer was building a reputation for his intense and immersive approach, which could be challenging for directors. Placing this intense actor into a meticulously planned Ron Howard and George Lucas production was bound to create some friction. Howard, the director, needed Kilmer to be adaptable, to hit specific marks, and deliver lines with precise timing for the complex special effects. But an actor focused on the internal reality of his character doesn't always line up with the practical demands of a blockbuster. This creates a constant, low-grade struggle where every scene can feel like a negotiation. This isn't about personal dislike. In fact, upon Kilmer's passing, Howard released a moving tribute to his talent. It's a fundamental disagreement about filmmaking itself. Howard believes the magic comes from collaboration, while some immersive actors believe it comes from a singular, authentic performance. Howard's stance prioritizes the health of the entire production, putting the philosophy of method acting squarely on his list of professional challenges. We are about to hit our top 3, where the stories get even more personal and the on-set tension becomes undeniable. These next entries involve Hollywood legends and situations that left a lasting mark on Ron Howard. But before we get there, if you're finding these stories fascinating, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. And we want to hear from you. What's your take on method acting? Is it a tool for genius or an excuse for bad behavior? Let us know in the comments below. Now, on to the top 3. Coming in at number 3 is more than just an actor. He was an American institution. We're talking about the Duke himself, John Wayne. The tension here wasn't from a long, difficult production, but from a single, intensely intimidating experience that had a young Ron Howard terrified before he even set foot on set. The year was 1976. Happy Days was a huge hit, but Howard was desperate to be seen as more than just Richie Cunningham. He was cast in the western The Shootist, about an aging gunfighter dying of cancer. Playing that gunfighter was John Wayne, in what would tragically be his final film. Wayne himself was battling the cancer that would take his life just a few years later. For Howard, this wasn't a dream come true. It was a nightmare. "I went into the movie expecting I wouldn't have a good time doing it," he later said, explaining. John Wayne was notorious for not getting along with young actors. Howard, the fresh-faced kid from sitcoms, was convinced Wayne would see him as a lightweight and dismiss him completely. The first meeting didn't help. Howard walked into Wayne's hotel room to find the towering figure, without his hairpiece, a giant bald man staring him down. The director, Don Siegel, showed Wayne a TV guide with Howard on the cover. Wayne squinted at it, looked at Howard, and said sarcastically, "Ah, big shot, huh?" Howard's heart sank. Oh man, he thought, I'm screwed. The first few days on, set were just as tense. Wayne was the undisputed king, and everyone was, as Howard put it, terrified of him. But Howard, despite his fear, noticed that the aging Il Duke was struggling with his lines. Drawing on his TV experience, Howard did something bold. He approached the most intimidating man in Hollywood and asked, "You want to run lines?" To his shock, Wayne eagerly agreed. That simple act broke the ice and completely changed their relationship. It became their daily ritual. Howard had found a way to connect with the legend as a fellow professional. Wayne started calling him Old 21 and treated him with newfound respect, even offering him advice. The terror Howard felt was replaced by genuine rapport. While the story has a warm ending, John Wayne lands on this list because of the profound dread and professional anxiety he initially caused. That initial tension, born of pure fear, was one of the most formative experiences of Howard's young career. Our runner-up is a man whose public image is that of a folksy, oatmeal-loving grandpa. But behind that comforting exterior was a man known for being one of the most stubborn, blunt, and authentically gruff personalities in Hollywood. At number 2, it's Wilford Brimley. The setting was the 1985 production of Cocoon, one of Howard's most beloved early films. The movie is a heartwarming sci-fi fantasy about senior citizens who find a fountain of youth. The on-set atmosphere, however, wasn't always so heartwarming, and a primary source of that tension was reportedly Brimley. At the time, Howard was a young director in his early 30s. Wilford Brimley, though playing an elderly man, was only in his early 50s and was an old-school, no-nonsense cowboy at heart. This created an immediate clash. As Howard later admitted, working with Brimley was incredibly tricky and tough. The conflict stemmed from Brimley's confrontational resistance to direction he didn't agree with. He had his own instincts and wasn't afraid to bluntly question Howard in front of the crew. He didn't treat Howard like an accomplished director. He treated him like a kid who still had to prove himself. This put Howard in a classic bind. The yas. Very qualities that made Brimley difficult, his stubbornness and authentic grumpiness, were exactly what made him perfect for the role. Howard needed that Brimleyness, so he had to manage him. This meant picking his battles, learning how to present ideas without provoking an argument, and knowing when to just let Brimley do it his way. Howard later said his job became to navigate that and not let him make the set too toxic for the others to flourish. This is incredibly revealing. The tension wasn't just a private struggle. It was a public force that Howard had to absorb to protect the rest of his cast. The day-to-day process was a grueling exercise in patience that pushed Hollywood's nicest guy to his absolute diplomatic limits. And here we are at number 1. The actor who caused Ron Howard the most profound and lasting distress wasn't a volatile movie star on a blockbuster set. It happened years before he directed his first feature. In the wholesome black-and-white world of Mayberry, the person who reportedly made him feel the most uncomfortable was the woman who played America's favorite aunt, Frances Bavier, who portrayed Aunt Bee on The Andy Griffith Show. The irony is staggering. On screen, Aunt Bee was the warm, loving heart of Mayberry. The shocking truth, according to Howard and others, is that the woman behind the character could be her polar opposite. Frances Bavier was a New York stage actress who, by some accounts, felt a sitcom was beneath her. She was intensely private and emotionally distant. While Andy Griffith and Don Knotts created a fun-loving set, Bavier kept to herself. Howard Morris, who played Ernest T. Bass, once described directing her as navigating a landmine. This would be tough for any adult, but for Ron Howard, it was his childhood. From the age of 6, he spent countless hours playing Aunt Bee's adoring nephew, Opie. Yet Howard has said he always felt that she simply did not like him or children in general. He never called her cruel, but he has consistently described a palpable chill in their interactions, feeling small and ignored in her presence. When the cameras rolled, she was the loving Aunt B. The moment the director yelled, "Cut," that warmth would allegedly vanish. This wasn't just a bad month on a movie set. This was for 8 years of his young life. One of the central adults in his professional world was a person who made him feel disliked. This experience undoubtedly shaped him. It likely taught him firsthand the impact an adult's demeanor can have on a child actor, and is a huge reason his own sets are famously supportive and safe. Years later, after Bavier had retired, she reportedly refused a visit from Howard and Andy Griffith. While hate is a word the diplomatic Howard would never use, the years of feeling a cold distance from the woman who was supposed to be a symbol of maternal love makes Frances Bavier the undeniable #1 on this list. So there you have it. From the clash of creative philosophies with Russell Crowe and method actors to the initial terror inspired by a giant like John Wayne. From the grueling battle of wills with Wilford Brimley to the deep childhood discomfort caused by the woman behind America's favorite aunt. These stories paint a fascinating picture of the man behind the camera. They show us that even Hollywood's nicest guy has been pushed and tested. But more than that, they reveal the incredible emotional intelligence and professionalism that has defined his career. He didn't just survive these difficult encounters. He learned from them, using them to forge a directing style celebrated for its grace and collaborative spirit. The true measure of his character isn't that he never faced conflict, but how he navigated it to create some of the most beloved films of our time. What do you think? Were you surprised by anyone on this list? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for watching,